Hi, I'm Kara Goodwin, and I'm the host of the Meditation Conversation podcast. So nice to be with you here today on YouTube for another YouTube live. It's been a little while. I don't think I did any of these last week. I was in Sedona. I left on Wednesday and came back on Sunday. I was there for the equinox and it was incredible. It was a really, really beautiful time to just kind of immerse myself in Sedona's vibrations and the equinox vibrations and just put aside some of my regular activities. So I highly recommend that all of us take some time to disrupt our regular patterns, our regular to-dos, and whether we go away or not, just that disruption and kind of letting ourselves fill our cups again is so valuable. But here we are. Thank you for tuning in. And today I felt like I wanted to talk about spirit guides or animal guides. And I feel like I've talked about this on the lives in the past. I think when I talked about that snake that came up and other things were coming up, but right now it's frogs, and I just have this funny thing where I came back from Sedona on Sunday and I was sitting out on my back porch and I noticed that there was this little thing on my the little fence that's around my porch, and I thought it was a stone at first because it was just this immobile little, it looked like a little gray stone. And so I got up to look at it, and it, sure enough, it was a frog. It was just this little frog sitting there. And if you follow me on Instagram, that's Kara underscore Goodwin underscore meditation. I had put a little story on there where I showed this little frog. And then the next morning, I come downstairs and my cat is inside the house and she's kind of pouncing on something. And I go to see what it is. And it's this tiny little green frog that I don't know how it got into the house. I don't know. Actually, this was yesterday morning. So this was a day and a half later, but it was this tiny little green frog and it was dehydrated, like it wasn't alive anymore. And it looked like it just had, I don't know how quickly frogs like run, how quickly they dehydrate, but it looked like almost petrified. And she was playing with that. So I took it outside just in case there was any chance that it might revive, but it didn't. So that was kind of interesting for me where I'm like, oh, frogs, like two frogs. That was enough for me to look online at spirit animals and see what the frog says because I am not really tuned into frogs. But I was like, hey, there's two in very quick succession, and I don't see frogs that much. And so I look on like a website that just talks about animal spirits, animal totems, and what they mean. And it was very relevant to what's going on with me. So there was one thing where it was like, it's time, this is showing a reflection of using your voice for your spirit. It said something about singing, and just kind of letting yourself be heard. And that has been this common theme going on in my own journey lately, where I am using my voice kind of privately, but also with clients, to work on my spiritual side, to kind of let my energy um, be expressed. So I've been doing this for a long time with the podcast, for example, with guiding meditations. Of course, that has an element of the voice to it, but this has been more of like using the vibration of sound to work energetically. It's just been this added element that I've been utilizing and kind of exploring. And another thing that it said, which was funny, I didn't even notice this part, but a friend of mine knows about some of the things that I've been doing. We'd been talking about it. And so I was like, hey, these frogs keep showing up, and this is what it says. And she looked at it. She's like, oh, you didn't even mention this part. And it was connecting to spirits on the other side of the veil. And that's been another element that's connected with the vocal piece. And so that's very relevant also to what's been going on. And so this is just really funny because I was like, "Oh, 2 frogs showing up kind of gets me prompted to look into what do frogs symbolize?" Well, then I came home last night and, it had been raining. There was an unexpected thunderstorm that came through. That's a whole other topic. Um, but it hadn't rained in a while, and I get out of my car. It's dark outside for one thing, and I get out and I go to look at something that's on the garage. I could see it on the garage when we were pulling in. And as soon as I step out of the car, I see something on our garage floor. And I'm like, what is that? Because again, it's dark. I can hardly see. And I'm like, sure enough, it's a frog. So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's frog number 3." And I go and look at the garage because the whole reason I had even gone outside and not gone straight into the house was to see if what was on my garage was a little frog because it looked like it. Sure enough, the window of the garage, there's this tiny little green frog. And then I notice as I'm in the garage, still, this is within like at most a minute and a half, 90 seconds. And I see a big frog that's in my garage. 5 frogs from Sunday to Tuesday night. 3 of them within 1 minute or a minute and a half. And they were all different frogs apart from 2. 2 were little green frogs that looked like they were the same species. So 4 different species of frogs. So we're not even just talking about like one frog had some tadpoles somehow on my property, which I have a little piece of property. So it's not even like I've got this big lake and I'm out in the country. I've lived here for over 5 years. I've never noticed, never really seen this abundance of frogs. And I text 2 of my neighbors who live like right next to me. I'm like, "Are you guys seeing a lot of frogs?" And no, they're not. One of my neighbors is like, "Oh, I have a frog that's always like at my on my front porch. It's always there." And but not seeing an abundance of more activity than usual. So this isn't really doesn't seem to be happening to it's not like, whoa, our neighborhood's filled with frogs all of a sudden. And it's not the same type of frog, 4 different types of frogs. So anyway, I bring this up because there are so many different ways that the universe and that our spirit connects and receives messages from from the universe, from what's happening outside of us. So we can live in a very literal, rational mind perspective where we just take everything at face value and it's like, oh, yeah, so some frogs showed up, that it is what it is. Sure, we can look at it that way, but 5 frogs in a space that I know very well that I don't normally have this, and 4 different types of frogs, it's really short period of time. All of those things to me are like tapping on me going, "Hey, we wanna tell you something. You have the resources, even though you don't know much about frogs, you can go online, you can do a quick little search to say, 'What might this mean?' and see if it's relevant." And so I did that, and I did find that it was very relevant, and it was kind of an encouragement because, like I say, these things that have to do with sound frequency, I'm kind of exploring it and it like as I go. I'm just sort of feeling into it. I'm just trying and then seeing like am I getting a reflection back? How does this feel? What kind of sense am I getting that I am tuning into what I'm intending to tune into? And so when we open our perspective a little bit more and we allow the universe to communicate back to us and we say, okay, maybe some communication comes to me outside of my 5 senses. Maybe the universe comes up and sends messages that I can perceive and say, oh, okay, that is relevant to what is happening. And animals can be a way that that can happen. So I encourage you to look around your world. Maybe animals are showing up for you. Maybe a certain type of animal is showing up for you. Could even be in the dream state. Um, I had a cool dream about a buffalo right before I went to Sedona, that ended up being really relevant as well. So notice your dreams, notice what's happening in your waking reality. Take a look. Are animals present? I would love to know if you can relate to this and you've got a story to share about how animals are showing up in your life and reflecting kind of your inner state, your spiritual state. I would love to hear about it. So I hope that you're having a beautiful week, and I wish you many blessings. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.